Hello children, welcome back to Nagesh Karasgi Orchid School channel. Now we have started history lesson number 9, the making of regional cultures. So we have completed till page 130. Now let's continue. Before that, a short summary. So let's go through the lesson. The making of regional cultures. We have learnt about the cheras and the development of Malayalam language, then rulers and religious traditions, that the Jagannath cult. Then we went to the Rajputs and traditions of heroism. Then beyond regional frontiers, the story of Kathak, how it is derived, the Kathak word. It is derived from Katha, means the story. Okay. Then we saw about the classical dances and the paintings for patrons. See the Rajputs and traditions of heroism. Then we went to beyond regional frontiers, the story of Kathak. Then again see classical dances, okay, 6 dance forms. Then the paintings for patrons, the tradition of miniatures, okay. Then you can see Radha Krishna painting and a closer look Bengal, regarding Bengali language, the growth of regional language, okay. It is said that Bengali language is derived from Sanskrit, okay, but it was also said that the people of Bengal they did not speak Sanskrit languages, but it is said still, okay. Now let us once again start with the same paragraph, that is from the 4th 3rd centuries, commercial ties. So open this page 130. From the 4th 3rd centuries BCE, commercial ties began to develop between Bengal and Magda, South Bihar, which may have led to the growing influence of Sanskrit. During the 4th century, the Gupta rulers established political control over North Bengal and began to settle Brahmanas in this area. Thus, the linguistic and cultural influence from the mid-Ganga valley became stronger. In the 7th century, the Chinese traveller Zhuang observed that languages related to Sanskrit were in use all over Bengal. Okay. So, this Chinese traveller, again he observed that languages related to Sanskrit were in use all over Bengal. Now, from the 8th century, Bengal became the center of a regional kingdom under the Palas. Between the 14th and 16th centuries, Bengal was ruled by sultans who were independent of the rulers in Delhi. We saw in chapter 3. In 1586, when Akbar conquered Bengal, it formed the nucleus of Bengal Suba, while Persian was the language of administration. Now Bengali developed as a regional language. In fact, by the 15th century, the Bengali group of dialects came to be united by common literary language based on the spoken language of the western part of the region, okay, now known as West Bengal. Thus, although Bengali is derived from Sanskrit, it passed through several stages of evolution. Also, a wide range of non-Sanskrit words derived from variety of sources including tribal languages, Persian and European languages have become part of modern Bengali. So now a wide range of non-Sanskrit words derived from variety of sources, which includes tribal language, Persian and European languages, which became the part of modern Bengali. Now here see, dialected means a particular form of language. In fact, 15th century the Bengali group dialect came to be united by a common literary language based on the spoken language of the western part of the region. Okay. Now early Bengali literature may be divided into two categories. Now this Bengali literature, it is divided into two categories. One indebted to Sanskrit and the other independent of it. Now indebted means it is owned from Sanskrit and the other is independent of it. The first includes translations of the Sanskrit epics, the Mangala Kavyas means literally auspicious poems dealing with local deities, and bhakti literature such as the biographies of Chaitanya Deva, the leader of Vaishnava Bhakti movement. So in chapter 8 we learnt it. Now here it has divided into two parts, Bengali literature. One, it is owned to Sanskrit, from Sanskrit, and the other is independent of it. The first includes what? Translations of the Sanskrit epics, okay, and the bhakti literature such as biographies of Chaitanya Deva. Who is Chaitanya Deva? The leader of Vaishnava Bhakti movement. The second includes, now first category is this one, and now the second includes Nath literature such as the songs of Menamati and Gopi Chandra, stories concerning the worship of Dharma Thakur, and fairy tales, folk tales and ballads. Ballads means short stanzas. Okay, here the second includes Nath literature, which such as what? The stories of Menamati and Gopi Chandra concerning the worship of Dharma Thakur, and this includes also fairy tales, folk tales and ballads. Now Menamati and Gopi Chandra and Dharma Thakur. The Naths were ascets who engaged in the variety of yogic practices. The particular song which was often enacted described how Menamati, a queen, encouraged her son Gopi Chandra to adopt the path of asceticism in the face of variety of obstacles. Asceticism is self-discipline, heroism, to face the obstacles. Dharma Thakur is a popular regional deity often worshipped in the form of a stone or a piece of wood. Now the texts belonging to first category are easier to date. Now the text which were belong to first category, they were very easy to categorize as the dates. Okay, as several manuscripts have been found indicating that they were composed between a late 15th and mid 18th centuries. Those belonging to second category circulated orally and cannot be precisely dated. They were particularly popular in eastern Bengal, where the influence of Brahmanas was relatively weak. Now first category texts, those were very easy to give the dates, but the second, those belonging to second category cannot be precisely, they cannot be given particular dates. They were particularly popular in eastern Bengal, where the influence of Brahmanas was relatively weak. Now peace and temples. From the 16th century, people began to migrate in large numbers from the less fertile western Bengal to the forested and marshy areas of southeastern Bengal. So now from 16th century people started to migrate in large numbers from where there is less fertility, and they shifted to forested and marshy areas to southeastern Bengal. As they moved eastwards, they cleared forests and brought the land under rice cultivation. As they moved that place, they started to clear the forests and they started to cultivate rice. Gradually the local communities of fisher folk and shifting cultivators, often tribals, merged with the new communities of peasants. Now here fisher folks and some other cultivators, often tribals, also merged, they also mingled with these communities. This coincided with the establishment of Mughal control over Bengal, with their capital in the heart of the eastern delta at Dhaka. Officials and functionaries received land and often set up mosques that served as centers for religious transformation in these areas. Now here this coincided, means at the same time with the establishment of Mughal control over Bengal, with their capital in the heart of the eastern delta at Dhaka, many official functionaries received land. They received land and often set up, what they have set up? They set up mosques that served as centers for again religious transformation in these areas. The early settlers sought some order and assurance in the unstable conditions of new settlements. Now these early settlers, they sought some order and assurance in the unstable conditions of the new settlements. These were provided by community leaders who also functioned as teachers, and they also educators, and were sometimes ascribed and supernatural powers. People referred to them with affection and respect as peers. Now here these were provided, these community leaders who also functioned as teachers and educators, means they were the educators and were sometimes ascribed means assigned with supernatural powers. They were assigned with supernatural powers. People referred to them with affection and respect as peers. They were called as peers. This term included saints and Sufis and other religious personalities. During colonizers and defied soldiers, various Hindu and Buddhist deities and even animistic spirits, the cult of peers became very popular and their shrines came to be found everywhere in Bengal. Now this term included some saints and Sufis who were religious personalities, and the founders, colonizers and defied means the rank of deity, soldiers were various Hindu and Buddhist deities, even animistic spirits means all objects, places, animals are considered as spiritual essence. So these are called animistic spirits. Here everything is, they consider that each and every object, place and animals have the spiritual essence. The cult of peers became very popular and their shrines came to be found everywhere in Bengal. Now the group of peers became very popular and their shrines came to be found everywhere in Bengal. Now Bengal also witnessed a temple building spree from the late 15th century, which culminated in the 19th century. We have seen in chapter 2 and 5. The temples and other religious structures were often built by individuals or groups who were becoming powerful to both demonstrate their power and proclaim their pity. Many of the modest brick and terracotta temples in Bengal were built with the support of several low social groups such as the Kolu oil pressers and the Kansari bell metal workers. The coming of the European trading companies created new economic opportunities. Many families belonging to these social groups availed of this as their social and economic position improved. Now see, in Bengali also witnessed a temple building spree from which late 15th century, which this culminated means reached to highest development in the 19th century. We have seen in chapter 2 and 5 that temples and other religious structures were often built by individuals or groups who were becoming powerful, both to demonstrate their power and to proclaim their pity. Now many of the modest brick and terracotta temples in Bengal were built now, and the support of several low social groups such as oil pressers and bell metal workers also they got. So we are going to next page, that is, you can see here, they proclaimed their status through the construction of temples. When the local deities once worshipped in thatched huts in villages gained the recognition of the Brahmanas, their images began to be housed in temples. The temples began to copy the double roofed Dauchala and four roofed, that is Chauchala, structure of the thatched huts. Remember the Bangla dome in chapter 5. This led to the evolution of a typical Bengali style in temple architecture. Now here again new type of construction it became. The deities, when local deities once worshipped in thatched huts in villages gained a recognition of the Brahmanas, their images began to be housed in temples. Okay. Now the temples began to copy what? Double roofed or four roofed structures of the thatched huts. So we learnt in this type of construction in chapter 5. In the comparatively more complex four roofed structure, four triangular roofs placed on the four walls move up to coverage on the curved line or a point. Temples were usually built on a square platform. The interior was relatively plain, but the outer walls of many temples were decorated with paintings, ornamental tiles or terracotta tablets. In some temples, particularly in Vishnupur in Bankura district of West Bengal, such decorations reached a high degree of excellence. Now this four roofed structure, four triangular roofs placed on four walls on a what? Plain square platform. Okay. The interior was relatively plain, but the outer walls, they were decorated with paintings, ornamental tiles or terracotta. What is terracotta? It is a hard clay which is as a color. In some temples, particularly in Vishnupur in Bankura district of West Bengal, we find such decorations and it reached to a high degree of excellence. Now we will go to next topic, that is fish and food. Traditional food habits are generally based on locally available items of food. Bengal is riverine plain which produces plenty of rice and fish. Understandably, these two items figure prominently in the menu of even poor Bengalis. Fishing has always been an important occupation and Bengali literature contains several references to fish. What is more, terracotta plaques on the walls of temples and the viharas, that is Buddhist monasteries, depict scenes of fish being dressed and taken to the market in baskets. Now here usually fish and food is the main menu. Why? Because it is a riverine plain where plenty of fish is found and rice is cultivated. So even it is a menu for the poor Bengali families also. And here see, fishing was always been the important occupation, and Bengali literature contains, even Bengali literature, they contain several references to fish. See, terracotta plaques or the walls of temples, viharas, depict scenes of fish being dressed. You can see here, it is being dressed and taken to the markets in baskets. Brahmanas were not allowed to eat non-vegetarian food, but the popularity of fish in the local diet made the Brahmanical authorities relax this prohibition for the Bengal Brahmanas. The Brihad Dharma Purana, a 13th century Sanskrit text from Bengal, permitted the local Brahmanas to eat certain varieties of fish. As Brahmanas, they don't eat non-vegetarian. Fish is considered as non-vegetarian food, but the popularity of fish in the local diet made that Brahmanical authorities to relax. They became relaxed, means they got the relaxation to eat this prohibition for the Bengal Brahmanas. And in the Purana, Brihad Dharma Purana, in the 13th century, it is written that they were permitted, even the Brahmanas were permitted to eat certain varieties of fish. In this way, we have completed the lesson. You can read this text of the boxes, and the very important things we will go to watch some of the animation videos so that you will understand the lesson very properly. The making of regional cultures. Okay.
Let us discuss how regional cultures develop. India is a country of diversities ranging from diverse landscapes to diverse flora and fauna. Although there is a diversity factor, but still a common thread binds the Indians. The typical Indian unity in diversity is reflected in the unique features of each part of the country. Each region is associated with its own language, food, clothes, dance, and music. We will now look at an example of the connection between language and region. The Cheras ruled Kerala in the 9th century and set up their capital at Mahodayapuram. During this period, it is likely that Malayalam was spoken in the area which forms a part of Kerala today. The Chera rulers used Malayalam language and script in their inscriptions. At the same time, they also promoted Sanskrit culture by borrowing stories from Sanskrit epics. Bhasha Kautilям is the first prose work in Malayalam which was written in 12th century. Later, in 14th century, Leela Tilakam, which deals with grammar and poetics, was written in Mani Pravallam style. Mani Pravallam literally means a combination of gem with coral. In this case, gem refers to Malayalam and coral refers to Sanskrit. Other than that, Malayalam's truly classic work, Krishna Gatha, was published in 15th century. Ezhuthachan is the father of Malayalam language. He played major role in the development of Malayalam language. In fact, the connection between Kathakali and poetry also helped in the growth of Malayalam. In other regions, culture developed around religious traditions. Lord Jagannath, believed to be a tribal deity in Orissa, who was later identified with Lord Vishnu. In the 12th century, Anantavarman, who was a ruler of Ganga dynasty, built Jagannath temple at Puri. Along with Jagannath, his brother Balabhadra and sister Subhadra are worshipped in the Jagannath temple. Even in modern times, local tribals make wooden image of the deities on Puri Festival. Puri Festival form an important part of socio-cultural life of Orissa. Rath Yatra festival is one of the important festivals at Puri. It is celebrated annually in June or July and attracts more than 1 million pilgrims every year. The deities are taken on wooden raths to the streets of Puri so that everyone can have the fortune to see them. Later, King Anangabhima III dedicated his kingdom to deity and started ruling as deputy of God. Soon, the prestige and influence of temple increased. All those who conquered Orissa, such as the Mughals, the Marathas and the English East India Company, tried to gain control over the temple so that they could gain acceptance from the local people to accept their rule. Hence, it can be concluded that culture varies from one place to another. People and their way of living influence the culture of a region.
Okay children, in this way we have completed lesson number 9, history. We will meet you in the next session with the new lesson. Till then, bye. Take care.